How is it going, everyone? It's K-Limit here, and today we are going to be talking about another PlayStation 1 racing game, and this is a game that I had never played before, but let me tell you, I am very happy I played it. This is a game that I got as a Japanese import game. It did come out in America as well, however, the English version is very expensive most of the time. You can find a disc-only copy for about $40 to $100, and then if you're looking for one that actually has the case and everything, you're looking at over $100 for it. I got one that had the case, had the game, it just didn't have the manual, and I got a Japanese copy, which cost me about $10. And Japanese copies of this game usually float around $10. So if you can find this game, if you can find a Japanese copy of this game, I do highly recommend picking up that version and saving yourself some money. Especially because it's a racing game. It's pretty easy to play. You don't really need to understand really any Japanese or anything to play it. You can get around the menus pretty easy once you get used to it. If you need to kind of figure out what the menus say the first time, just use Google Translate, and then from then on, you can figure out everything from there. I only used it the one time when I first started, and then once I did it, then I got everything figured out and knew what everything was immediately. So it's a very easy game to hop right into, even though it's even if you play the different language, even if you play the Japanese version, you're going to be able to hop into this pretty easily. So Bomberman Fantasy Race is a pretty cool game because it is a racing game based off of the Bomberman franchise, and it definitely plays with that quite a bit. In the race, you constantly can drop bombs. You do have a timer, so you can use them like every 5 seconds or so, like that, and you can just drop bombs at your opponents. You can throw bombs at your opponents. There's also pickups, like you would expect in pretty much all of these arcadey style racing games, and there's a bunch of different stuff you can get with pickups. There's cluster bombs you can pick up. There's homing bombs that you can pick up. There's stuff that will basically give your character more stamina because you're riding on the back of, I think they're called Louis? Is that right? They look like kangaroo things. You can ride on the back of these kangaroo and dinosaur looking things, and you can sprint with them. If you hold down the forward button, they'll actually start sprinting really fast, and they can run out of sprint, and they can run out of stamina. So you can pick up these little heart abilities, and they will refill your stamina. And you can also find really big hearts, and they will actually give you unlimited stamina for a little bit. So, and you're going to need to be using that stuff during the races, because some of these races can be pretty difficult, let me tell you. There's not a whole lot of races in the game, if I'm being completely honest, but the tracks that are there, I do enjoy quite a bit. I think that there's some pretty good design. There's also some problems with some of the tracks, but for the most part, I did enjoy the way the tracks look. I enjoyed running around on the tracks, and I even enjoyed the way that this game controls. Now, since this is a game where you are riding on the back of an animal, it definitely controls different than what you would expect from like a kart racing game or a racing game where you're driving a car or something like that, It definitely feels different than that. It's a bit more slidey, but I don't really have too much of a problem with that. I didn't think it was over the top slidey or anything like that. It's just, you'll definitely notice it, and you will also have to do manual jumps every now and then, and that is something to keep in mind, that there's some areas that are kind of like platforming areas where there'll just be a big gap and you have to jump over it, so you kind of have to keep an eye out for that as well. So it definitely does some different stuff since it has basically these foot races instead of your standard driving races. But I actually enjoy a lot of the stuff that it did for the most part. One of the things that I really enjoy about this game is that there's these little like launch pads that you can see on the wall, and if you press the jump button and then you press the jump button again as soon as you hit the pad, your animal will literally launch off the wall and get like a super dash, and that's actually a really cool ability, and you're going to want to, again, use that a lot because you need to take every advantage you can to get in front of the other characters in this game, because the hard part is getting into first place. Once you get first place, it's pretty easy to keep first place, but the hard part is actually getting there, because right from the get-go, all the computer characters just launch right off the starting line, so you really are playing catch-up, I will say. So that is probably one thing that could have been better. I wish that you had a better chance of getting first place right from the get-go, whenever you start the race. Like, it'd be nice if you could, get in the front and actually have a chance of getting first place before all the other PC players, but unfortunately that's just not how it works. So, is what it is. But either way, I still enjoyed it for what it was. I did think it was interesting that you can move before the race starts. That's something you don't really see very often in a lot of these games. I've seen that in monster truck games before, but not really a racing game like this, not like this kind of cartoony racing game. You can actually move behind the line before the race starts, and you can try to get closer to get a better jump on the line. I was never good at it, but you can do that. If you step over the line before the race starts, then it will actually like foul you out. And if you do that too many times, it will actually like make your character stay still. It will be like, you've done this too many times. You are not jumping over the line. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I did like that. One thing that I also think is cool is that after you win a race, you actually have to do like a victory lap, and you do these victory laps and you can collect coins during these victory laps, and you get coins for winning the races and stuff too. But it's just kind of a cool idea that you do this little victory lap. The first time I did it, there's like confetti on the screen and stuff. I was just like, this is kind of neat. And you get those coins and you can spend them on upgrades, so you can get like the pickups that you would see. You can actually get them at the very beginning of the race. If you go and you buy them, you can have a couple of them and you can store them so you have them ready to go at the very beginning of the race. So I thought that was kind of cool. But you can also use them to get different colored animals. So you can get different colored, I don't know whether to call them dinosaurs or Louis. I don't know all the different terminology here, but you can get different colored animals. Right from the beginning of the game, it will ask you to pick a Bomberman character to play as, and you can do that. You can pick any of the different Bombermen that there are, and then it will have you pick a Louis, and then you can drive either a Louis or a Tiro right from the beginning. So it will ask you which one you want to ride, and then from there, you just keep doing races, and you can keep buying different variants of all the different animals and stuff like that. So that stuff, I think, is pretty cool. It has this interesting little map that you go into whenever you're doing the single-player races, and it basically just, I've seen it in other car racing games and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. It's basically just a map, and you can move your character's icon along to the different areas of the map, and you can select which area you want to go to, and each area will be a different type of race. And there's some pretty cool different races. The one thing I will complain about when it comes to the races is that there's a couple courses here where there's some platforming issues where I'm never a big fan of when this happens, okay? Where if you miss the jump, then your character falls down, and on this one specific one that's like a snowy map, you'll fall down and you'll fall to the bottom of a mountain, and you have to run all the way back up to the top of it, and by the time you get there, you're already so far behind, you're not going to get back into first place, most likely. So that's something that's always a little bit irritating whenever they have these big jumps that will, if you miss them, well, then they put you way back, far behind everyone else in the race, because they drop you just way far back on the course. I'm never a big fan of that in any kart racing games or any racing games in general. I've seen that done a lot. Actually, I've seen it more often than not in a lot of Game Boy Advance racing games, funnily enough. But it does have that issue in this game, unfortunately. So that is something that could have definitely been better. But still, even with that, I still enjoyed the game. I think that this is a good game despite some of its flaws. It definitely has flaws, I will say. I don't really like that if you get hit, you can actually drop the item that you're carrying, or if you run into a wall, you can drop the item that you're carrying, and I think that there's sometimes too much going on some of these courses, especially the very final course. That one just has a lot of different stuff going on, a lot of different mechanics going on, and it's a bit much, and especially because, the characters, like I said, they have a little bit of a slide to them, and there's one specific turn where you basically have to come to almost a complete stop to get around the turn, or else you're going to fall right off a cliff. So there's definitely issues here, okay? It's not a perfect game, but even though it's not perfect, it's still very enjoyable. Graphically, I think it looks great. I love the way it looks. In fact, I wish that they would do some sort of HD remaster of this game. This is one of those games that I think if you released it today, it would do pretty well. It's a really fun racing game, and it's something that I don't hear anyone ever really talk about. I didn't even know this was a thing. I just kind of happened to stumble upon it. I was just like, Bomberman had a racing game? And I was just like, okay, awesome. I knew that there was one on the PS2, but I didn't know about this one on the PS1. So I really enjoyed this. I think it's a lot of fun. And if you are someone who is collecting for the PlayStation 1, especially if you are collecting for the Japanese PlayStation 1, and you want a really fun, cheap racing game, pick up Bomberman Fantasy Race. This is a really fun, cute game. I mean, graphically, it's great. Performance-wise, I never had any issues, really, with performance. There was, every now and then there would be a little bit of slowdown, but it wasn't, too terrible. It was just, every now and then if a lot of crazy stuff was going on the screen at one time, it would happen. But for the most part, it controlled really well, and I didn't have any issues with that stuff. So I really enjoy this game. I think it's really fun. The courses, for the most part, are really fun, other than just probably the snowy one and the very final course I'm not a huge fan of. But the other courses, I think, are actually pretty fun. I like the design of them. They're bright and colorful. This game in general is just bright and colorful. And there's also time attack mode. There's a time trial mode if you like that. If you like time trial modes. Does anyone like time trial modes? I don't know. I tried a couple of them out, but, they're okay. But yeah, this is a really cute game. I like it. It's a fun racing game. I will say too, I love being able to pick the different colored Louis and the different colored Bombermans and stuff. I raced as a pink Bomberman with a yellow Louis, and it was so adorable. I just love that color, the combination. Like, pink and yellow are two of my favorite colors. It's just like pretty Easter colors, and I just love that. So, but you can see some of it on the screen, and it just looks so cute and adorable. This is just a really adorable game, very colorful, and I just had a blast playing it. This is something that I think that I will probably go back and play many more times. This is a great game, especially for the price of the Japanese version. But thank you guys for watching. Go check out Bomberman Fantasy Race on the PlayStation 1. It is a very good game. I would go out and I'd go ahead and say that this is probably one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games now. I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun. It's chaotic. It's fun. The course design is crazy. It has some stuff that you don't see in other racing games. It has some platforming, which is cool. It has some shortcuts that you can find. It has some water that can shoot you up into the air to get to different areas. It's got a lot of different stuff going on. It's a really cool game. So go check out Bomberman Fantasy Race. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. You have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.